Right. Now, after requiring the Mongoose, how do we actually create tables in MongoDB? Very simple. We'll just say now that's most things in MongoDB, right? Most things in Express. You notice that we are passing almost everything inside the variables. Even functions, we are passing functions inside variables. Ordinary port self, we are passing it inside the variable. Everything, we are passing it inside the variable. So that it will be easy to access them later. So want to create a table and want to pass that table is not, sorry for saying table, it's actually called schemas. Let's get used to the word schema. It's not table now, it's schemas. Now to actually create a schema, want to now call it, I want to create, we pass it inside a variable called authentication schema. It's the same thing as a table. We want to create this table now. Should be equal to this mongoose that we've created. Mongoose.schema is a method in MongoDB. Mongoose or schema is a method in MongoDB to create what? Schemas. And this time around, I want to pass it as an object. And how many schemas do you want to create? Let's say we want to create 2 schemas or 2 columns. Remember, in tables we had columns, authentication, something like register and login and all that stuff. Now this is auth schema. I want to pass 2 things. Let's say I want to pass username. No, let's just pass email this time around. Email. This is how to create the table. You say email type is what? String. That is that varchar we're creating there. Now in Mongoose we use string for our email. This is all you need to create this. If I want to create username, I'll just come down here and passing it as an object. I'll not say username. But this time let's just work with only email. Why? Because we only have email here in our front end. We only have email in our front end. So let's just use only email. So we'll go back to this code here, and after doing this, you will be noticing a pattern. That's why I'm saying forget about the code now, because you will just be seeing pattern, repetition, and that is how you get used to the code. But that's why it's good to understand what is happening, because you'll be almost everything here will just be repeating it and repeating it everywhere. The pattern that I want also to take note of now is that number 1, almost everything is passed into variables. Function, we are passing it to the variables. Ports, we are passing it to variables. We are creating a schema, we are passing it to the variables. Why? So that we'll be able to export it. Notice it, we are requiring, we are exporting. We are importing, we are exporting. We are importing, why? So that we'll be able to use it where? In our app.js. Almost everything will be exporting, will be required, we'll be passing it to the variables and all that. Now, we've created everything we want to create here, and in this particular schema, we only have email. Now, to export it, all we need to do is say module.what? Exports should be equal to what? What are we exporting? Now, there's a way to export our schemas. All we need to do is to say mongoose, there's a function for it, there's a method for it, dot model. That's how to export it. And how do we model it? Authentication. Then we'll pass in the variable that we already created, this auth schema up here. Forget the syntax. Note what is happening. What we are doing here is we are exporting. Just know that we are exporting here. This is just the same thing as saying mongoose.export auth schema. This auth schema here. But what I did is I'm trying to pass in all the methods that exist in Mongoose for exporting, so that it will just be we'll have much more power working with it. Just say mongoose method.model. Now this model now authentication is how it will look in my table or in my schema. And then what schema is the variable itself. That is all here in this model. I'll close the model. Now to actually make this work, there's just 2 more things, and when we do that 2 more things, we'll be able to visualize it. And those 2 more folders that we have to create are the controllers and the routes. The controllers and the routes. So let's just quickly create those 2 folders. Controllers, and the second folder is the routes folder. Now what do these 2 things do? This controllers folder is where we'll pass in the functionality of what's happening at each route. And in this route folder, this is where we are going to be passing, this is where we are going to be programming each and every route that exists there. Every get request, every post request, every get request, every post request. Now for the controllers, we want to create, what controller are we creating for what model? The authentication model, auth.js. And what controller are we or what file should we create here in this route? We'll just out again .js. We close this. I have just this particular file open, controllers. Now this controller is, like I said, controller. Listen to the way the term itself sounds is like a description of what it does. It's controlling everything that is happening in each route. Is the controller. Now I'll show you how they link. This model links to this controller. This controller links to this route, and this route will link to this application. Now the controller, the model is where those tables or schemas exist. The model will connect to this controller. This controller will control how the route should behave. How this route should behave, and this route will now send the functionality of this controller to the application, so that whenever we run it, that's the connection. I'm going to maybe draw a diagram after creating this, so that you see how the connection works. Now, our controller has a file called what? app.authentication.js. Look at the pattern here: authentication.js, model, authentication.js, route, authentication.js. We are back to this controller, auth.js. Now, in this case, all we need to do is we want to create how we want this application to behave. Now, notice another pattern that is happening again: constant. We're creating a new variable for what? Register route. We are creating a new variable for the registration route, and it is what? This is where we are now passing a function that has two parameters called request and response. Now, on the registration route, whenever somebody tries to access the registration route, they will be given access to two parameters: the request they make and the response which will deliver to them whenever they make it. This is the controller. What is happening when the person visits the registration route? There's two parameters, request and response, and these two parameters is a function, right? Let's leave that one aside. Let's come down here and create a login controller, taking two parameters, request again and then response again. Leave it again. We are not doing any functionality here. We just want to leave it like this. Then down here, what do we do when we finish creating everything? We export. Just be noticing the pattern of export dot module.export. Sorry, module.export should be equal to what? An object. Now it's not just one. We're passing two things, so I have to pass it as an object. Register, comma, what? Login. So I'm passing this to, I'm exporting it outside. Now I'll go to my route to collect these routes that I've already created in my controller. If I go to my routes now, I'll just say const require. Now require what I have in the controllers. I'll say const what is an object. Remember, I passed it out. I exported it as an object, and then I want to require it. Require what? Go to my controllers, right? And then the out.js there. And what are the two things that I exported? Register, comma. In fact, if you and then what? Login. After doing this here, remember I've required it now. Now there is an express method called what? Router method. I have to pass the express method called router inside of this route. So I'll just say const. I'll first of all import the express module. Should be equal to require express, and then I will now say const router, a new variable called router should be equal to express dot router, because it's a method. Now these are the routes or the controllers that I've imported from the controllers, right? I want to now make use of this. I'll now make use of this router. Listen. Then I'll say router.route. What should the route be for the registration? It should be register. And what kind of method am I passing? It should be a post method called register. The second one again, router.route is a method in Express to create a route, login route, dot post again, because it's a post method. In fact, let's use get method so that it will be easier to understand. Now let's use get method, login dot get what's it again? Let's change this to get. We change this to get here. Let's change this to get. And after doing all these things that I'm doing here in my route, what do I need to do again? The pattern exports the router itself. Exports module.exports should be equal to what? Router. Now, after exporting it, now I have to go and import it somewhere else. And where should I import it? Where the application is being run, which is where my app.js. So I'll just come down here under this connect. I'll now say const router should be equal to require. I'll require it from where? My routes folder, and it's called what? Routes.js. After doing this, now I'm going to draw it diagrammatically so that you see how this thing is actually working. Now, app.use, because I want to use this router because I cannot just leave it around. You can see it's looking as if it's faint because I'm not using it. App.use what? This. And then the route is called what? Router. That's all. All I'll need to now do is to go back to the functionality and just say, whenever somebody hits this registration route, console.log for me, welcome to register. Or let me just say registration route. Exactly, you can do that, but I don't want to use that now. I just want to console.log for now. Right? Here now, console.log, whenever somebody hits this route, you say what? Login route. I think that is all. I'm not sure I'm missing anything. Let me just close all this so that it's not, I don't want my files to be looking to a folder to be looking too much. Now go back to this route and then hit refresh on this page. Go to my console. Okay, I must be missing something here. Go back, refresh this, go to my poster.html. Oh, sorry, this is supposed to be since it's a get method, I'll go back to my routes, go to my authentication, register.html, or I can just use okay, let me just use register.html, exactly how it is in my right HTML, login.html as well. Okay, so let's try this. Don't I have it? I do not. Let's get register. Register.html public. I have my login.html file, but there's nothing inside of it. Okay. App.js status router routes.js get register. Okay, let me just do controllers. Module.exports register and then routes. Where's the sounds? Okay, let me actually okay, res.send hello. Routes. Change this back to register. Alright, let me access register routes. Now you can see it is telling me hello. So whenever I hit on that route, it will tell me hello. It will also print that on my console because that's what registration route. Whenever I go to my login route, so I just come here and go to my login route. You see, it's still telling me hello because that's what I programmed, and then here it is telling me login route controllers. Now let me just have a diagrammatic